Reactor online. Sensors online. Weapons online. All systems nominal.
Hello everyone, today we're taking a look at the Illician Lancers Command Lance Force Pack. Right now this is exclusively available from Barnes & Noble, and if I remember right, they're supposed to eventually make their way to other retailers after a set time. I think it's like 6 months or something like that. So I refer to this pack as the Ost box, and it would be exactly that if it weren't for one miniature. That being said, because of that mini, we get 2 new mechs as well as 2 resculpts in this one. Now, before we look at the minis, who are the Illician Lancers? The Lancers are a mercenary unit founded in 2572 who have served every great house and even served with the SLDF. The original, not any of the copycats later on. They're known for their honorable conduct and also known for their long service with House Davian after the fall of the Star League. The force pack we have here has a Scarabus, Ostroc, Ostsol, and Ostwar. These are all available to mercenaries in the Ill Clan era, so are essentially an out-of-the-box Ill Clan mercenary force. If you play competitively, they would make an excellent core for a 350 or 375 point mercenary lance, or force, I guess. And if you play casually or narrative, they are just a great core for a mercenary unit. The first mini we're looking at is the Scarabus. The first time we ever saw this mech was in Technical Readout 3055, and while being a feisty light mech, it has a very unflattering look to it. The mech did receive a much-needed facelift when Technical Readout 3055 Revised was released, and this new sculpt definitely borrows heavily from the look of that one. Looking at the miniature, overall it is really well detailed, with a couple things that I think could have been done better. The first of these is a technical issue, and that is the way that the leg that is further back is supported with a massive chunky piece of plastic that secures the leg to the base. The other thing is the front of the Scarabus's left arm, where I think they could have done a better job in defining the weapon's details. As far as things like mold lines and clip points, I'm having a hard time finding any, and it looks like they have done an amazing job hiding any of them. Looking at the Alpha Strike cards for the Scarabus, we have the 9A and the 9T. The Scarabus 9A is a battle mech size 1 with a TMM of 4 and movement of 20 inches. It is a scout with a point cost of 27 and can attack for 2 at short, 1 at medium, and has no long range or overheat capabilities. The 9A has 3 armor and 1 structure with specials of ECM, energy, melee, and tag. On the other side of the card we have the 9T model of the Scarabus. This one is a scout as well and comes in 1 point higher at 28 points. The 9T does 2 at short and 1 at medium without a long range or overheat. It also has 3 armor and 1 structure and specials of ECM, energy, melee, tag, and triple strength armor. It also has the same movement profile and TMM as the 9A. With the ability to jack its own heat up and to turn on the triple strength Mimer and Alpha Strike, the Scarabus can actually do 3 damage from the front and 4 if attacking from the rear, and with a speed of 20 without the TSM active, it is a terrifying little backstabber. The next mini we're looking at is the Ostroc. This is one of the original machines seen in Technical Readout 3025, and has gone through many iterations, with its original art depicting missile launchers in the arms and it getting revised art in everything from battle technology to Technical Readouts 3050, Project Phoenix, and 3085. It has finally settled into this new form in Recognition Guide Ill Clan Volume 2, and I think the design is better for it. The mini we get in the box is a repose of the Ostroc, which debuted in the Mercenaries Kickstarter, And I have to say that when you compare it to its predecessor, it has been refined with details like the antenna mounted behind the head taking on a more fin-like profile, the weapons barrels being a bit thinner, the missile launcher looking a bit more defined in its shape, and crisper details with a more dynamic pose. All of these are definitely welcome additions, and also show us how Catalyst and the company they work with, Lyra, are constantly working to improve the quality of the minis. What I don't like is the chunk of plastic cast under the foot to support it. I feel like it could have been made smaller and more towards the front of the foot, as it is essentially just there for a peg that plugs into the base, or probably from the base into the miniature. Looking for mold lines and clip points, I can see a very light mold line on the front of the left knee and also along the back of the left leg. There is a clip point at the top of each leg towards the hips, but otherwise things are super clean. Looking at the Alpha Strike cards for the Ostroc, we have the OSR 3M and K models. The 3M is a BattleMech size 3 with a TMM of 2 and 12 movement. It is a... oh, of course, my keyboard messed up there. Sorry. 36-point skirmisher that can do 3 at short and medium ranges with 2 at long and can overheat for 1. It has a respectable 5 armor and 5 structure with the special of case. The other side of the card has the 4K. This is also a BattleMech size 3 with a TMM of 1 and a movement of 8 and 12 jump. It is also a skirmisher and comes in at 30 points. It can do 3 at short and 2 at medium with no long range and can overheat for 1. It has the same armor and structure as the 3M and has specials of energy and jump strong 1. I know I'm usually a total idiot for energy mechs that don't have a long range value because of points efficiency, but in this case I am really liking the 3M more. With 5 structure and case, it can get a lot of mileage out of the case system, and it hits pretty decently. I think as far as a heavy trooper, this would fit right into the role nicely. Now, before we get into the next mini, I want to tell you about our sponsor, Fortress Miniatures and Games. Fortress carries a wide variety of products for BattleTech, from miniatures, mats, and rulebooks to whatever odds and ends you might need. They are currently taking pre-orders for the new Core Box, Starter Box, and Core Rulebook, which altogether at their store run $120 before shipping. So check them out today, get your pre-orders in. Now, back to the Force Pack. Okay, now that we're back to this Force Pack, it is time to look at the Ostsol. Much like the Ostroc, the first time we ever saw this mech was in Technical Readout 3025, along with most of the other Ost mechs. The Ostsol we have here is a new variant of the Ostsol, and if I'm looking at it right, it is the 9R variant, sporting a couple versions of particle projection cannon, a bevy of lasers, and a C3 slave unit. The new Ostsol is in a less dynamic pose than the original one we got in the Mercenaries Kickstarter. The miniature does have a good, crisp amount of detail overall. Unfortunately, though, the mini does have some flaws which do stick out. And you can tell that in the casting process, they did try to put the mold lines in decent spots, but it didn't work quite out. Didn't work out quite the way they wanted it to, or were looking to have it happen. The two places these mold lines stick out to me are first on the rear of the right arm, just next to the right torso. The other one is running down the outside front corner of the right leg. This one sticks out pretty well. That being said, it should be pretty easy to clean up that mold line with a sharp hobby knife. There is also a mold line on the outside of the right torso weapons on the underside of the PPC with the smaller weapons. It isn't hard to get to, and I don't think it will be hard to clean up. I'm not seeing any clip points on the mini, which is always appreciated, and it does look like there is a tiny bit of glue on the rear of the torso where the lower hip meets the upper hip assembly. Looking at the Alpha Strike cards, we have here the Ostsol comes with the 9M and 9R models. That was a weird way to phrase that. I don't know why I wrote it like that. Anyway. The 9M is the first one we're going to start with. Oh, I have that note all messed up. Alright, just go off the card. The 9M is a battle mech size 3 with a TMM of 3, movement of 16. It's a skirmisher that comes in at 49 points. It can do 3 at short, 3 at medium, and 1 at long with the ability to overheat for 1. It has armor of 6, structure of 3 with specials of ECM and energy. On the other side of the card, we have the 9R model, which is a battle mech size 3, TMM1, movement of 6 inches. It's a juggernaut for 36 points. It can do 3 at short and medium with 2 at long and 1 overheat again. This one has 6 armor and 5 structure with C3 slave, energy, mobile headquarters 1, and triple strength Myanmar. Now, as far as the 9M, while pricey, the combination of energy and the TMM of 3 makes this a tough mech to deal with because of the amount of armor that it has. Excuse me. So even with the price of 49 points, I can see the 9M being a really fun or annoying mech to have on the table, depending on if you're using it or if it's being used against you. As far as the 9R, I feel like the TSM isn't going to come into play very often, although the C3 system and its slow speed definitely lend it to being part of a long range element of a unit, using C3 perhaps as part of a mech as a mech in a full C3 company. The final mech we're looking at is the other new mech in the Force Pack, and this one is definitely one of the more interesting mechs in the BattleTech universe. I say this because we got hints of it in the Mercenaries Handbook 3055, but we didn't have stats for the mech. It was one of those mystery machines, a phantom with a combat value, but no stats in the game. We finally got this machine in Experimental Technical Readout Primitives 1. From what I found on Sarna, it was apparently supposed to be released in a Solaris 7 supplement, but never made it to print. The miniature for the Ostwar feels a lot like a mix of the art for the 2M and 3M with some modernization, and I really like the look of it. I like the pose with the slight step that it has. The model has a good amount of detail, though I think it's a bit weak on the front of the arms. There are a few mold lines on the Mini, with some of them being in strange spots, like the ones that are on the top of the knee guards in the recessed section. You really can't get to them. Other ones are in pretty common areas, like the ones on the underside of the lower arms, and it looks like there is one on each side of the mech's torso along the center line. Like, you can't see them unless you look directly under there. None of the ones in regular places really stick out, and there's a single clip point that you can see behind the mech's left shoulder, which is pretty easy to clean up. It's sort of just fidgety to get to. One other thing I noticed is that the shoulder armor seems to have a bit of a gap between the torso and the shoulder armor. This might look okay once it's painted up, and as a brief aside, I've already started painting them, and it does look a lot better once there's paint on there. I will have to see what this looks like when it's fully completed, though, to really hold out, to make a judgment on that. The Alpha Strike card for the Ostwar includes the 2MB and 3M models. We're going to start off with the 2MB. The 2MB is a battle mech size 3 with a TMM of 2 and movement of 10 inches. It's a brawler, which is weird for a 10-inch mover, and comes in at 40 points. It can do 4 at short and medium with 3 at long with no overheat value, has armor of 6 and structure of 3 with specials of case and SRM 1-1. So in casual play, for my fans who like to use the Inferno rounds, have at it. One thing that's sort of odd is that it says it's available in every era, which completely is different from what the master unit list says. I mean, as far as a Star League era mech and a Royal, this is on par with things like the Marauder and the Warhammer as far as damage output, but it just isn't the same in the area of structure and armor. Well, armor is actually pretty on par with the Marauder. The structure is just a little weak. So, as far as the master unit listing, I'm guessing that's an error on the card. I have not reached out to Catalyst for clarification, although I probably should. So the other side of the card is the Ostwar 3M. This one comes in at 43 points. It's a battle mech size 3 with a TMM of 1, movement of 8. It's a brawler. That makes sense here. Short of 4, medium of 5, with a long of 2. No overheat value, but boy does this thing bring the armor and structure. It has a total of 7 armor and 5 structure, putting it much closer to things like the Marauder and Warhammer in the Star League era, but this one came out during the Blakist era. It has Case, ECM, and Indirect Fire 1. Overall, I mean, so first of all, this was reintroduced in the Blakist era. This was a desperation mech, and that's why it's kind of weird that it shows it the Royal variant available in every era. I don't even think it's available to the clans. It's literally Star League then extinct. But the 3M was, oh my god, we need new mechs, and this was one of the things that came out of that. Also, the Indirect Fire 1 is a little bit useful, and it would feel right at home alongside things like Marauders, Warhammers, Archers as a bodyguard, stuff like that. So, as far as the Force Pack itself, value-wise, the Force Pack comes in at $34.99. This puts the cost of each miniature at $8.75, which isn't bad for what you're getting. And of course, since nobody outside of Barnes & Noble right now carries it, you know, you really can't get a discounted price from someone like Fortress or any other online retailer. I'm sure that at some point it will reach general retailers, and until then, it's only available in the United States, which is also quite unfortunate. Now, if you're listening and you're outside the US, reach out to me in the comments, and I'll be happy to see what we can do about trying to get this out to you before it actually hits normal distribution. Also, as mentioned, all the mechs in the Force Pack are available to mercenaries, and I'm going to be using the Force Pack as the basis for a 350 and 375 point list and posting it on Patreon as a free download. Speaking of Patreon, if you want to support the channel, you can become a channel member here on YouTube or become a patron over on Patreon at patreon.com/unicorncompany. All of that being said, I really like this Force Pack. I probably am going to get a second one because I've actually started painting these up as the Illician Lancers, and I sort of want an Ostwar for Unicorn Company. I don't know, maybe. So that's it for tonight. I want to thank you all for listening. I want to thank my patrons, my channel members, and my sponsors. All of you make this possible. Well, sponsor, but all of you make this possible. I really do appreciate it. So until next time, stay safe out there, Mech Warriors. This is Carrie, signing off. Thank you to my patrons. At Captain, we have Sarah. Lieutenants, we have Boy in a Box and Nasty Taurus. Sergeants, BZ Archer, Steven, Faz, Housemaster Poding, and Country Fried Minis. And our cadets, Scott, Jamie, NB Kaiju, Domini, and Brother Carr. I also want to thank my channel members, Miss J. Speechly, Anonymous Only Agent, and Greg Swars. And finally, Unicorn Company's sponsor, Fortress Miniatures and Games. Check them out. They're a huge supporter of the community and the best place to get all your BattleTech needs taken care of. If you want to support Unicorn Company, you can become a channel member here on YouTube or a patron at patreon.com/unicorncompany. Links to my sponsors, also Country Fried Minis and Scott's Game Room, will be in the description. Thank you all, and stay safe out there, Mech Warriors. This is Carrie, signing off.